And it was great because that was the time. That was when Cabo basically was at its low season, and here at that time, the high season was like the 15th of July to the 15th of September. It was like somebody turned on a faucet, turned off a faucet, and that was tourism was 60 days.
Yeah.
And now it's 365 days a year, which is, the valley's just on fire, obviously. So we did 2.5 months the first year. I went to everything was used. I went to secondhand stores. I found tables and chairs and old doors, and we built the original fire line and bought a bunch of old, used refrigeration. And for me, it was cool because the first year it didn't really have to be a business. Cabo was okay.
Yeah.
So it was like paid vacation, hang out in the vineyard, and then I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
I'm sure you did.
And went back to Cabo, and it was really difficult to get Cabo going again, and it was just frustrating. And then the second year, I said, no, we're going to open earlier. So second year, we did 6 months. And then it became even more difficult to leave. And at the end of the 6 months, I said, you know what? Fuck it. Went back, closed the restaurant in Cabo, was going to rebrand it. We were going to try to do this hamburger joint or whatever, but just basically shut it down and made all the changes we needed to make to come back here full time.
Yeah.
And we've been open basically except for Christmas Day and New Year's Day every day since May of 2014. So 4 years now going strong. And that really motivated the growth as well, because all of a sudden we have our first winter. Didn't think about that. We're going full time. All right, well, now it's winter. Oh, boy, it rains in the winter and it's cold. So we built this structure. And the idea of the structure was, the house is all in receivers and all the beams are numbered. The idea was to take the house apart in the spring and put it back together in the winter.
Interesting, okay.
And we figured out that the people that built it, it took them a long time. So we said, we're not going to take the structure down. We're just going to take the hay bales away. So the first summer after being here full time, we just take the hay bales away. And then eventually we made the house bigger. And then eventually we mudded the whole thing. And then we said, this is way too much work to destroy every year.
Yeah.
So we're just going to leave it. And that's sort of how the growth has been. Everything has been, I did not envision this, what we have today, in July of 2012. It wasn't, on the radar.
What's interesting about that, and I didn't realize that, but what you've accomplished here is absolutely beautiful. It works. It has all the workings of a wonderful restaurant and very comfortable.
We have bathrooms now.
I've used them. Good job. And they're relatively close. I don't know why I keep finding the bathrooms above the farm animals up there.
Those are the old ones. That was our biggest complaint for a long time.
Drew, the menu, and I've been fortunate. I've only ordered off the menu once, and that was my first visit here. I got to tell you, by the way, so we show up here. Eric's been telling me a whole bunch of times, we got to come. And, of course, I saw your stuff through Martelli, and we finally pull up your driveway. And I drop Eric off at the walkway. I said, I'm going to go down there and park, because we figured out, I got to park over there, right? By the time I parked and walked up here, he's talking to you, and you've got your smile and your personality I can see from across the room. I'm like, oh, shit, Eric knows Drew. I didn't know he knew Drew. Why didn't he just tell him we were coming, right? And I come over, and you shake my hand, and it's one of those man hugs, I'm like, hey, good to meet you, And I sit down, I'm like, I didn't know you knew Drew. And Eric goes, I don't. I just met him.
Cool.
And, well, I want to say that because I want people to realize that if they show up at your door, that's what they're going to get. And when we listen to the last...
Probably depends on the day.
No, I don't know. You've been pretty consistent. One moment, one day you're a little off, and I think there are some employees not here. But, the point is, Drew, I listened to your story about being in Europe and all these people that you work for and your status and what you've accomplished in your life. And to be the kind of person that I can walk in the restaurant for the first time and feel like I'm at home, I want people to know that because that's what Baja's about, and I know that that's what you're about.
Yeah, it's where we are today. When I look around, first of all, it's my favorite office I've ever had.
How could it not be?
It's sort of like working on a boat, which I really enjoyed. if it gets just a little too stressful, you just kind of walk over to the gunnel and look at the water. In this case, you just walk away from the grill and just look at the mountains and the vineyard. Sometimes in life it's a lot easier to, as you go through life and go through travels, sometimes it's easier to identify what you don't want as opposed to necessarily identify what you do want.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, there's some real merit to just being a marathoner in life in that sense, because if you continue and continue and continue with this mule stubbornness, if you have a vision, you're eventually going to eliminate all the things you don't want. Even if you don't know what you do want, you're eventually going to get to a point, which is what happened with me here, is I got to a point, okay, I'm here, the spaceship basically lands and you get out, and you're on this beautiful ranch, and you start to go, I don't have anything to complain about it anymore. There's always operational daily things, but I stopped thinking about where's my next place I'm going to go. I stopped thinking about, I personally can't deal with this, or this is something that I don't want in my life. And it took me a couple of years to realize that I'd sort of gotten to a point where I wasn't crossing off things that I didn't want anymore, because I think, what's the old saying? It's how do you carve an elephant out of a big piece of stone, or what is it? You just chip away everything that doesn't look like an elephant.
Yeah.
Right. Or I think I combined two things. It's how do you eat an elephant, and how do you the sculpture guy and whatever. But
it's like you peeled away the onion, though. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You peeled away the stuff that you don't want, and eventually you get to that part that's the best part. Right?
If you like onions.
Yeah, well, I do.
Well, I do too. So it's and that for me was a real. My whole life I've been a guy that's had his whole life in 2 suitcases and ready to go at any point. Even if your job's great and you're doing fine, I got a phone call. Oh, they got a job in the Solomon Islands. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and I no longer. I don't even answer those emails anymore. I don't even take those phone calls anymore. And for me, that's a huge step in my life. Either it means I'm getting old, because I don't think so, because now I found other outlets for my scatteredness, like off-road racing and fishing and
a new child.
New child. That's
Jack.
It's easier to be in a race car. Making wine. Other things that are diversions. Maybe diversion is not the right word, but where you don't feel like you're a stone just sitting still. Where you just keep rolling. And I think that's something really, really special about this place, which is Guadalupe Valley. And I've heard similar stories from a lot of my friends and colleagues who live here. And there's something about this place that does that to people.
Well, I think we could probably do a whole show on Baja and how it makes you feel.
I think you could do a whole series.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But, we're actually launching another show called Baja Sessions to capture some of that. Before we wrap this show up, I've got 2 more things for you that I'd like to know about. Well, one I want to know about, one I want to talk about. Your menu. You talked about everything being over the fire here. Right. Natural resources.
Well, not everything. We do a lot of cold things too. But when we cook with fire.
Of course, right? But I think your menu is incredible, and I chuckle to myself when I'm not here. The last time I was here, you said, "Oh, sorry, I made another steak for you. Next time I'll do something different." I'm like, no, keep making a steak. It's incredible what you've done. Can you just tell us about your menu briefly?
Sure.
I know it's special, and you have some specialties.
So it's obviously. The access we have to ingredients it's not something that I just walked in here and had access to all the ingredients. So over the course of the last 6 years, we've created relationships with farmers, with ranchers, with fishermen, with winemakers, with mezcal distillers, with anything that we serve. We know. It's really important for me to understand the source, know the people that produce it, and feel good about their processes, and that I feel good enough about it that I can share that with somebody. My philosophies and principles about responsibility and local consumption and sustainability are strong enough that even if it's a phenomenal project, if there's something that I don't agree with, I'm not going to serve it.
Yeah.
So the products that we have, we know the guy that makes the cheese. The quail, you can see the farm. The quail farm is basically straight across the valley from where we're sitting here. We raise sheep. We have cattle here on the farm, on the ranch. We have laying hens. We keep bees. We make olive oil, not to mention the wines. So you start. We have a 5-acre farm that's our restaurant farm, and we've actually now added 2 sort of satellite farms because we've gotten to a point where one is not enough. We've
had some success.
Well, it's just and so we want to keep it real, and we want to keep it in the same principle. So we just instead of but we want to continue to control the processes.
Yeah.
So another beautiful thing about Guadalupe Valley is we're 15 minutes from Ensenada, which is one of the most important seafood ports in all of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So between aquaculture and wild-caught fish and shellfish, we only serve fish and shellfish from the Baja Peninsula, nothing from any other parts of Mexico. Our salt is from San Felipe. It's just really, as close to 0 kilometers we can possibly make it.
Yeah.
And we change the menu, 4 or 5 times a year. And the tasting menu changes every day in some form. And it's really just a celebration of what Northern Baja is, what Guadalupe Valley is. And for me, we're not celebrating ourselves. We're celebrating the grower. We're celebrating the rancher. We're celebrating the fisherman. We're honoring and celebrating the ingredient, which is really the most important thing for me. I'm not a chef. I'm an ingredient facilitator.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And my only job is to find the best ones out there and not fuck them up before I serve it to you.
Yeah. Well,
right? I mean,
hasn't happened yet.
That's basically my job.
Well, I would say, I've already said I haven't had a bad meal here. I've appreciated everything that you've done. I brought a lot of guests here that I cared about the impression that was made, and everybody walked away going, wow, that was incredible. I feel like I need to come back. Hopefully you'll have me back to talk some more about some of the stuff you're doing. I have actually...
Every day from 4 to 4:30.
Well, you provided us with plenty of wine. Again, another topic that we can discuss another day is we both have a passion for off-road, and you're in one of the best places in the world to go play in the desert.
Totally.
Like you said, on the other side of the mountain. Builtwell has been a good friend and partner of ours in our race world, and they sent me with some stuff for you. We were hoping to race together earlier this year, and that didn't work out.
It's going to happen.
We'll do it next year, but they've got some great gloves, if you're familiar with Builtwell.
Right on.
You saw a T-shirt of mine about Mañana Fabrication.
Yeah, those are cool.
So I've got a whole bag of T-shirts and stuff from Builtwell.
Thank you.
And I've talked a lot about you to Bill over at Builtwell and told him how great things are here, and hopefully you stop by. And he wanted you to enjoy these items.
Right on.
Thank you. Thanks for always taking care of us. And I really hope that people take the time to not only listen to this show, but understand where you're coming from as a chef and as a restaurateur here in the Valley, and really what this is all about, because you can miss, I think I've missed some of this when I've even enjoyed a meal. Hearing your backstory, the next meal I have here is going to be completely different, because I'm going to think about you being that deliverer of the ingredient instead of the chef, right? I mean, it's incredible what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Come visit us here in Guadalupe Valley when you get a chance. If it's available, drink Mexican wine. Visit the valley. It's an easy, quick drive from Southern California. Literally, to get to our place, it's 2 turns. You go straight I-5 south, you turn left on Mexico 3, you turn right into the ranch. I mean, it's that easy. But don't just come to us. Come to the valley. Visit what the valley has to offer and experience the wines that are here. It's really an amazing place, and I like nothing more than to share it with people.
and that shows every time I've been here. Drew, if somebody wants to come to the restaurant, do they